The war against Ukraine is increasingly becoming an ethnic cleansing within Russia itself. Analysts at the UK Ministry of Defense emphasize the huge disparity in casualties in different regions of the terrorist state. The war and related mobilization have hardly affected Russia's elites, as well as the country's richest cities, Moscow and St. Petersburg. Instead, in the eastern regions of Russia, where mostly non-indigenous peoples live, the mortality rate has increased more than 30 times over the past year. Experts emphasize that the war unleashed by Russia threatens not only Ukrainians, but also certain Russian ethnic minorities.
Russia carefully conceals its losses in the war against Ukraine, but based on open data on mortality during the year of the full-scale invasion, media experts have drawn up a demographic map of the terrorist country. It clearly shows how unevenly the war affected the regions. The lowest death toll is in Moscow, St. Petersburg and the oil-rich region of Tyumen. The Russian government is not currently involving its elites in the war, the UK Ministry of Defense said. Instead, they point to the ethnic component of the mobilization.
In many of the eastern regions, deaths are highly running as a percentage of population at a rate 30+ times higher than in Moscow. In places, ethnic minorities take the biggest hit. In Astrakhan, some 75% of casualties come from the minority Kazakh and Tatar populations.
After the announcement of partial mobilization in Russia, protests immediately broke out in Dagestan. The BBC Russian service estimates that, as a percentage of the population, Dagestanis have been killed in Ukraine 10 times more than Muscovites. And some of the republic's peoples are even threatened with extinction, including the Kumyks.
Not to war! Not to war! Shame on you! Shame!
During the year of the war, the highest mortality rate was recorded in those regions where the small peoples of Russia live – Buryatia, Tuva, Chukotka, Transbaikalia and Sakhalin.
There is everyday racism in Russia. This is well known and proven. And when the West claims that there are nationalists and neo-Nazis in Ukraine, it is simply ridiculous compared to what is happening in Russia, where there are persecutions and murders on ethnic grounds. But to say that Russians deliberately discriminate against Buryats because they are Buryats requires proof. In fact, the closer to the center you are, the more you are considered a human being, and that is why so few Muscovites and St. Petersburgers are taking part in the war.
However, non-indigenous republics that are rich in oil, gas and diamonds also have low mobilization rates. Therefore, experts consider economic discrimination and the level of protest moods in specific regions to be the main factors influencing conscription trends.
When women started protesting in Dagestan and beating police officers, the conscription story came to an immediate end. The Kremlin said they are no longer recruiting in Dagestan. But further away, the Jewish autonomous districts, Mongolia, Vladivostok, there people go and don't protest. Even if there are protests there, they can always be suppressed and no one will ever know about them.
Whether the war has become a convenient moment for Russia to carry out ethnic cleansing on its territories is a question that needs to be seriously investigated. But this was in particular stated by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky.
The catastrophic situation is in occupied Crimea. The information about the Crimean Tatars having been mostly mobilized is fully confirmed. The same thing is happening on the territory of Russia itself. This is a calculated imperial policy and a blow to the peoples.
In particular, the peoples of the Caucasus and Siberia have suffered the greatest losses, Zelensky emphasized.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Latest news, trends, and analytics on all about Ukraine. Like, share, and subscribe. Any questions, proposals, and comments? Contact us via email.